Chesapeake Bay dead rise, Linda R. lies to a mooring pole out in the creek. Her thick wood timbers are more than 60 years old, but not a one of them is sprung, and there's no hogging in the sweep of her classic lines. Captain Wilson sculls out in his heavy old skiff, bending to the oar. His checkered shirt and faded work pants hide hard muscles over every inch of his small body. They've had some time to harden, almost 70 years. The skiff moves swiftly and quietly, a burlap sack draped over the oar slot to lessen the wear. It wasn't too long ago that the first outboard came to the island. Wilson, a tad younger then, said he didn't need any fool thing like that, and he challenged the owner of the outboards to a race against his skiff and sculling oar. Captain Wilson won. Captain Wilson was a Chesapeake Bay waterman from Gwynn's Island, Virginia. He started fishing with his daddy when he was 7, and he'd been at it almost ever since when I first met him. You might say he fished with poles, but not the type with a string and a cork. He'd go into the pines and he'd cut down saplings. He'd season them, and in early spring he'd take the pine stakes, trim them up, and he and a few tough friends would go out in the boat and pound them deep into the mud in his fishing spot up toward shoal waters. They'd rig the nets in a line beginning in shallow water and lead them to a circle trap at the deeper end. Captain Tom, you see, the fish will be swimming along the shallows. They'll be happy as they can be looking for food. Then they'll run into this here net, and they'll do what any fish would do. They head for deep water. And the net, she heads them into a trap, and they can swim in through that funnel all right, but it's an awful hard time for them to get back out. Nossa, it's a hard time, and that's when I come in. One morning, as he's working his nets alone, a huge, dark shadow catches Captain Wilson's eye. It hits his bail so hard that it pushes him back into his skiff, like no fish from the bay could ever do. It's a bonita, he figures. He's never seen one, but he's heard the stories. This one is all riled up, Captain Tom, and he's fixing to tear every inch of my nets. And I was looking at money, man. That fish was going to make me rich for the day. He tries to scoop it in the bail, but the fish is far too big. He wrestles it over the side, but it thrashes out again. Finally, he gets it by the gills, he pulls it to the skiff, and with all his strength he wrestles and flips it in. Later, back ashore with his prize, standing in the Linda R., Captain Wilson looks up eagerly at the buyer man standing on the wharf. And the buyer man is looking down long and hard at Captain Wilson and looking down at the fish. Finally, the buyer man says, "I ain't gonna buy that fish." Stunned, Captain Wilson looks up at him. "Why, what are you talking about, man? Why not?" "'Cause it's not a fish, it's a shark, and nobody I know will eat a shark." He told me later, "Captain Tom, the only good thing about that day was I'd get that shark before it ruined all my nets." Today, each time I sail past Stingray Point or Cherry Point and around into the Pianki Tank River, I look toward the mouth of Jackson Creek over to where his nets were. They aren't there now, and the Linda R. is gone. Captain Wilson Rowe passed away some years ago. My family and I first met Captain Wilson on a fine morning in late spring as we were returning to the Chesapeake from the Bahamas. Soon our whole family would sometimes be going out with him to his nets. But this day, we doused the sail and headed over hoping to buy some very fresh fish. "Nossa, I ain't gonna sell you no fish. I ain't gonna sell you nary a one." But then he gave them to us. He gave us all we wanted, and he picked out the very, very best. The first fresh fish from the bay tasted mighty good that night. His nets were she, and they bought him his living and his life. He talked nice to them when they were full. He fussed when they weren't. Full nets meant money. Empty nets meant they didn't even pay for the trip out. When a big fish or a storm or a yacht boat tore the nets, he'd come alongside in the bouncing skiff, lean over the gunwale, and lovingly mend them with his strong, gnarled hands and his one good eye.
Oh, Willie Brown, he's still going down to the bay after all of these years. His hands have been martyred to work in the water, the knuckles all knobby and sere. He comes to McNasby's to market his harvest, his oysters and rock.
I went out with him a lot. Often he'd sing a hymn as we headed out, looking for the first offshore buoy. Years ago, he'd written his compass courses in pencil on the white framework over the wheelhouse windows. It helped him to find his way in the fog and on dirty days.
Oh, Willie D, now you're married to me, and not that old Chesapeake Bay.
One morning, though, it was clear and cool, and just as the sun was breaking from the water on the horizon, he said to me, "Captain Tom, there she is, son. Look at that. There she come. You ever see anything as pretty as that? Now you try to stop that sun from coming up. You just tell him to try to stop that from coming up. Nossa, nossa. All those people in Washington, all those important people, all put together, no matter how hard they try to mess things up, that's one thing they won't never be able to mess up. You better believe it." You could tell, even before the sun came up, that it was going to be a beautiful day.
Each morning he gets up, his work never lets up until he's caught all that he can. Sometimes the bay here slick calm like a mirror, sometimes it's a kick in the pants. But always Miss Maggie's curled up like a rag heap, asleep in the lines in the bow. And if she were here, Willie would hear what Hannah'd be telling him now. Oh, Willie B, you come straight home to me. Oh, Willie B, you come straight home to me. Oh, Willie B, you come straight home to me. Oh, Willie B, you come straight home to me. Oh,